Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr, and today we're giving a recap of the last few games because the first round of the Triple-Elimination tournament has been completed, and so we can give you those results. I'm going to give you a little recap on the the last four games of the day, and show you the bracket, of course, and just to kind of give you an update. So first of all, we head over to St. Louis as the Colorado Rockies franchise. Remember, this is all using History Maker Baseball, their all-time franchise greats. And the Colorado Rockies took on the St. Louis Cardinals. And Bob Gibson had the most dominating pitching performance so far this season. Through a complete game shutout, but even more than that, allowed just 2 hits, and those came in the 6th inning, as we see here. And those were the only two. I take that back. There were 3 base runners because he hit Eric Young in the 9th. But those 3 were the only base runners the entire game, and he struck out 11. So a very dominating performance from Bob Gibson. Meanwhile, St. Louis did score 4 runs to win 4-0. Mark McGwire hit a 2-run homer here in the 5th. And Yadier Molina hit a 2-run double in the 6th. And those were the only runs there. 4 runs on 7 hits for the Cardinals. And the Rockies go down, no runs on 2 hits. And so St. Louis takes this one to advance. Of course, they were heavy favorites. But that hasn't really mattered too much for some of these games, because the favorites have gone down, but not in this case. We had Milwaukee facing off against Pittsburgh, and the Pirates actually held off a late rally by the Brewers. Mike Caldwell was pitching for Milwaukee and only lasted 4 1/3 inning here. As you can see, he was only down 3-1 heading into the 5th. Gorman Thomas hit a solo shot here in the 3rd off Babe Adams. And Ralph Kiner added a solo shot in the 3rd also. And there were a couple other runs scored here, but in the 5th is when Caldwell really kind of fell apart. He allowed a couple back-to-back singles to lead off the inning. Got Brian Giles to ground out, and then Dave Parker and Pie Traynor followed with RBI singles after that. And that was enough to put the Pirates up 5-1 at that point. Now, the Brewers did score a couple runs there in the 6th when Babe Adams had kind of a rough inning there in the 6th. A couple of, actually 4 singles total, one of which was a 2-run single by Sixto Lezcano. So that got them to 5-3 within a couple of runs. But then in the bottom of the 7th, off of Dan Plesac here, there was a solo shot from Brian Giles, a walk, RBI double from George Grantham, RBI single from Jason Kendall. So Pittsburgh took an 8-3 lead into the 9th inning. They turned things over to, actually they didn't turn things over to Goose Gossage yet. But Ben Ogilvie started off with a leadoff single there. Gorman Thomas struck out. But then Don Money hit an RBI double. Ted Simmons followed with a single. And then Paul Molitor walked to load the bases. And so at that point, things were, the tying run was there at the plate. And that's when the Pittsburgh Pirates brought in Goose Gossage. Jess Cirillo struck out, but then the Goose walked in a run when he walked Prince Fielder. That cut the lead to 8-5, so things were looking pretty interesting, especially with Robin Yount up. But he was able to get Robin Yount to fly out to end the game. So Pittsburgh advances on this one, the 8-5 victory. Next, we head over to Atlanta, where the Arizona Diamondbacks took on the Atlanta Braves. And one would assume it was going to be a pitcher's duel when you had Randy Johnson facing off against Greg Maddux. But that is not what happened, because Arizona got things going in the second inning off Maddox. Maddox allowed 3 home runs that inning. He allowed a leadoff homer to Jay Bell, a 3-run homer to Matt Williams, and then a 2-run homer later on to Paul Goldschmidt. So 6 runs in the second. So Arizona took a 6-0 lead. But then in the bottom of the third, Randy Johnson had some trouble of his own. And Fred McGriff capped that inning with a grand slam. And suddenly it was a 6-5 game. Unfortunately, Maddox did allow another run in the following inning to Tony Clark with an RBI single. But then in the 6th, Matt Williams hit his second home run of the game, and that was it for Maddox, as he was pulled, allowing 8 runs, 7 of those earned. Those were the only runs, actually, that Arizona would get. But that was actually fine because Atlanta didn't score again either. So 8-5. Arizona takes this one 8-5. Randy Johnson did go 6 innings, allowing only 5 hits, striking out 6, but 5 runs. Again, 4 of those from that grand slam from Fred McGriff. But Arizona knocks off Atlanta to advance in the tournament. Finally, we head over to L.A. as the San Diego Padres franchise comes to town, face the L.A. Dodgers. And this one had Koufax on the mound facing Kevin Brown. This is Kevin Brown on the San Diego. Kevin Brown played, he pitched the shutout, I believe, for the Marlins earlier in the day. So here he is, his San Diego version on the mound in this one. Facing off, as I said, against Sandy Koufax. And all the runs scored in this game came by way of the home run, as Gil Hodges had a couple of homers, a 2-run shot in the second and a solo shot in the fourth. And then in the third, Gary Sheffield had a 2-run shot to give LA their 5 runs against Kevin Brown. Koufax was cruising a little bit until the 6th inning, when he did allow back-to-back homers to Ken Caminiti and Greg Vaughn. But those are the only runs that San Diego would put on the board there. And so LA takes this one 5-2. A total of only 11 hits combined between the two teams. Koufax allowed 5 hits. 3 of those were to Greg Vaughn. Vaughn had that solo homer, as I mentioned, a double and a single. He went 3 for 4. Nobody else could really figure Koufax out this game. And Kevin Brown, he went 6 innings, allowing 6 hits and 5 earned runs, striking out 4. So LA, heavy favorites in this game, win this one 5-2 to advance in the tournament. So let's take a look at the tournament bracket now that we've played a full round of games. And we can see in the American League winners bracket, nothing has changed since my last video because all the games that we just talked about were in the National League. But just as a recap, we will have Seattle facing off against Toronto. Chicago White Sox facing off against the Tigers. The Los Angeles Angels facing off against Cleveland. And the Baltimore Orioles facing off against the Oakland Athletics. Down in the losers bracket, the Yomiuri Giants are taking on the New York Yankees, who lost to the 16th ranked Seattle Mariners there in the first round. Kansas City will take on Minnesota, Texas at Tampa Bay, and Houston at Boston. Again, Boston, the number 2 seed, falling to Baltimore there in the first round. So remember, it's triple elimination, so even after tomorrow's games, none of the losers will be out of it yet. The losers from this losers bracket will fall down to this elimination bracket, and that's where, when you lose, you're out for good. Let's look at the National League. We have Miami taking on Homestead Grays. Philadelphia facing off against the Mets. Pittsburgh playing St. Louis. And Arizona facing off against the LA Dodgers there in the second round. Down in the losers bracket of the National League, we have Washington face off against San Francisco. Again, San Francisco lost to Miami there in the first round. Cincinnati taking on the Cubs. Colorado at Milwaukee, and San Diego taking on Atlanta. They're in the losers bracket. Once again, as a reminder, the higher seeded team always has home field advantage. So whatever the higher seed is the home team for that particular game, which means Seattle, who's the lowest ranked American League team, will never have a home field advantage unless they were to make it all the way through to the championship and face off against Miami, who's the lowest seed in the National League. Likewise, the New York Yankees in the American League will always have home field. They'll always be playing in Yankee Stadium because they're the number 1 seed in the American League. Same goes with the National League as well. So, once again, if you want to follow the action, head over to baseballmaelstrom.com. You can see a little write-up on each game that took place. This one just went up today. And if you click on that link, you can go to the box scores and all of that fun stuff. There's a little link to the bracket, so you can view the full bracket down here. And then below that is the schedule for the games for October 2nd. Those are the 16 games that are going to take place October 2nd. Over here to the right, the scores would be the scores from the prior day's games, October 1st, which was round 1 of the playoffs, or the tournament. And then at the very bottom, you can get the records. Not that the records really mean anything, since it's a tournament, but they're there if you're interested to see run differentials and that kind of thing. You can head over to stats if you want to check out the stats. I do those in ball stat and ball score. The one thing I'll note is that there's been a little error there, and I'm not able to see the National League leaders right now or the overall leaders. I can get the American League leaders, but for some reason I'm trying to figure out why there's an error message on the National League side. Haven't been able to figure that one out yet, so for now you won't be able to check out the National League leaders. Of course, there's only been one game, so there's not a whole lot to look at there, but just if you happen to head over there and you're curious, that's why that's the way it is. You can always head over to the old Payoff Pitch League that I had by clicking on the Pops League page here. That will take you to the that 8-team league that I had, and you can get the season stats, the World Series stats, and all that fun stuff over there if you want to check that out. But other than that, that's where we will leave things for now. Again, I've played 16 games, so of History Maker Baseball so far, total. And I think after maybe another round, I might give you my my input on it. I gave you my kind of first impressions, but I want to give it some more time and then give you my more comprehensive thoughts on what I think of the game so far. So I'll probably do that after another, maybe 16 games or so. So in a couple weeks, in a few weeks, we'll take a look and I'll give you my thoughts and impressions about History Maker Baseball. Thank you, everybody who has watched this. I do realize I probably need to update my 8 things I look for in a baseball game or a tabletop game or whatever I called that video, because I gave those impressions after only playing Stratomatic and Payoff Pitch, I believe. Had not even scratched History Maker Baseball or anything else really. So I should probably update that now that I've had a little bit more time to think and a little bit more time to play some other stuff. Go check that video out if you're curious to see what my thoughts were on that. Of course, they've evolved, and so I need to kind of just do an update video on that and let you know what I'm thinking nowadays. But once again, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all of you being here. If you have any comments, leave those down below. If you're curious, or if you want to give a prediction on who you think is going to win this tournament, you can leave that thought down below as well. And until next time, Have a great evening.